Okay, so I'm going to dive in at lesson 22, which is actually perfect because every time I look at the clock, it's always on a multiple of 11. Um, but my desire in teaching Course in Miracles is, this book is actually, it's my good book. Like, I think it's the book I would keep above all other books, although I love books, but this feels like a direct dialogue with Jesus. It's channeled by Jesus. And a lot of people are curious about it, but they're so turned off by the language. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, atonement, sin, whatever. I forget the other words that are so triggering. But I don't have the religious wounding that keeps me from letting the essence, the very, very pure essence of this book go deep in. And I want to share that. I want to share my passion. And today is potente. Another way that I want to teach is just by sharing my process with you, because that's a gift that God gave me, is not taking myself quite as personally as most of us do. So I'm changing. Okay, I won't go into that, but I'll just say that I want to share my personal process because today's lesson pairs perfectly with what I'm navigating in my life and gives me another possibility of navigating it. And I want the same for you. Because we're only victims of this world as long as we believe we are. And once we're ready to believe something else, this book provides another alternative, an alternative that's really enticing. Lesson 22. What I see is a form of vengeance. I know it's a strong word. Let's think about what it really means. Today's idea accurately describes the way anyone who holds attack thoughts in his mind must see the world. Having projected his anger onto the world, he sees vengeance about to strike at him. His own attack is thus perceived as self-defense. This becomes an increasingly vicious circle until he's willing to change how he sees. Otherwise, the attack thoughts and counterattack will preoccupy him and people his entire world. What peace of mind is possible to him then, or her? It is from this savage fantasy that you want to escape. Is it not joyous news to hear that it is not real? Is it not a happy discovery to find that you can escape? You made what you would destroy. You made what you would destroy. Everything that you hate and would attack and kill, all that you fear does not exist. Look at the world about you at least 5 times today, and for at least a minute each time. As your eyes move slowly from one object to another, from one body to another, say to yourself, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. At the end of each practice period, ask yourself, is this the world I really want to see? The answer is surely obvious. So that's cool. Words are cool. But I woke up this morning, not only to this lesson, but also to a text from my husband saying that he's ready for divorce. And it needs to happen, but it's still a source of fear of the unknown, and fear of separation, just all the fundamental, I think really there's only one fear. It's one problem. In this book, we'll talk about this. Just stick with me, kids, and we'll understand what the only problem really is. But it's so easy in life, right, to have that egoic orientation of I'm the center and like this. It's like self-righteousness, but it feels like an innate self-righteousness. Like my way is the way, and that means that your way can't be. And with my husband, well, I'll just say that he's been a good teacher in that for me, because rarely do our ways have our ways. I'm not going to say do, because anything's possible in the future. I mean, that's another thing that I love about Course in Miracles, is that when you leave the past to rest in the past and you realize that there is this greater power, that there's nothing that it can't do. And the only thing that limits us is our ideas about life and ourselves based on the very limited amount that we've seen and done in this body, in this life. Plus kind of a backlog maybe of faint memories from other times, places. But let's stick with the basics, which is, I felt so scared and I saw him as a threat. For reasons like we just haven't been able to communicate. He hired a lawyer, and so now he's coming for divorce, and immediately it's like me against him. It's like he's got the lawyer, now I need a lawyer. Like there's all this kind of like ego calculations that happen, and maybe I want a lawyer, but I don't want to take a lawyer from the place of needing to protect myself. And sometimes in this world we have to play the game, but can we play the game with always keeping truth at the forefront? The Course says that the voice of God will always tell us what to do, what to say, where to go, all the basics, and that we don't really have to be preoccupied with thoughts of the past and the future. So the last thing he said in his text is, I want to, my intention is to navigate this peacefully as possible for the children. And my first thought was like, oh, come on, we haven't been able to do anything peacefully in our whole marriage. But that was the ego thought system. And see, that's what I see, is that you have to be willing to relinquish your whole thought system, which is so much about positioning yourself, my view against their view, me against the world, this feeling of like I'm a separate body and everything outside of me is a threat. And so I've always got to strategize. But inside of God's thought system, that whole layer of awareness and existence falls away, because when we get quiet enough, we can be directed. So I don't always experience that because I'm still fucking full of noise. But I heard this morning what I believe was the Holy Spirit, what I believe the Holy Spirit is simply the consciousness of light. This meaning that there's no barriers. Light, you can't keep light from touching everything, and so it's like this undivided, unified field of consciousness. Anyway, what I heard is just because my ego wanted to how do I position myself against him, and I feel like he had a power play, and now I need to get the power play. Can you relate to this? Because this is not about me, this is about you, and this is about us. And another way of seeing, and a way of seeing that will bring us all the fulfillment that we're desperate for on the inside, but haven't fully realized. So my inner voice said, after I did through all that, how do I get the power back? I'm just not going to respond, and that'll be my active power. It's strange. It's so funny to watch all this play out, because it's so easy to identify with it, and yet it feels like it has so little to do with the real me. So the Holy Spirit said just to say, yes, I'm willing to do this peacefully. But in order to say yes, I had to move through all my attachments to the past. It was just the past. He hasn't been able to be peaceful with me before. All this evidence, all this. And it is great. If you want to invest your faith there, you will have plenty of evidence as to why it's justified to invest your faith in self against other, in protecting the body, protecting the ego, protecting that which was never meant to last. But when I heard that answer in my head and I sent it, I said, yes, that's what I want. I want peace. I got this sense of like, if I'm free from the past, anything is possible. And it really could be the most beautiful expression of our relationship, is our separation. Could be. And I could be the source of that with the help of the Holy Spirit. So, in closing, what I see is a form of vengeance. It doesn't have to be. Take care, everybody. So happy to be with you. See you tomorrow.